All right, everybody. Welcome to Trendy Trading. Let's go ahead and get started. Today is the 5th of February, 2023. If you thought earnings were over just because Apple, Amazon, and Google had reported, you're completely wrong because we still have a huge lineup for this week. I went ahead and circled in green some of my favorite names that are presenting or showing their earnings this week, and that is Pinterest, Royal Caribbean, Chipotle, Uber, CVS, Dominion Energy, Yum, Under Armour, Walt Disney, MGM Resorts, O'Reilly. I love O'Reilly, always have long term. PepsiCo, PayPal, Expedia, Lyft, Duke Energy, and pretty much that sums it up for me as far as the names that I like. And Activision as well. Sorry about that. That is tomorrow after the close as well. So we'll be looking at some earning plays going into this week using debit spreads like I like to do. So I'm really eager to jump into those with you tomorrow during a session during the time of the day. We'll let you know. Market Watch, let's talk about that really quick. It is actually really quiet. And typically when it's quiet, we get choppy to down. Just throwing that out there. Typically it's choppy to down. We look for price discovery into, some levels. But again, we have some big names reporting, and we'll go over that in the morning, kind of coach you through the charts and so forth, and pick out the direction that we'll be trading stocks. SPY QQQ, the neutral strategy. This is going to sum it up for you. This is from last week, and what you want to note here are the levels. How well did they work? Remember, all levels to the downside are support. Levels to the upside are resistance, still proven otherwise. You can see that we hit our targets. We did find support indeed there at SPY. And if you took the trade over the neutral, you did really well into target 3. On the QQQ, didn't quite make it into T2. We're off a little bit there. But if you did take the trade over the neutral, you did well, as we did see all targets, and you can see we stalled there just like we stalled over here on the SPY. Again, that was SPY and QQQ for last week. Let's go ahead and move on. Now we're going to get into SPY neutral for this week. This is the blueprint. Something you'll notice on these is I went ahead and identified the inside and down and inside and up formations. Now again, this is on a higher time frame, I believe on weeklies and monthly charts. So again, this is a supply zone up here, and this is a demand zone down here. This is our neutral strategy. Again, looking to go long over the green levels, looking to go short underneath the red level. Again, areas to the downside are targets for a short. Just be careful there. I want to bring my stops in, cover shorts as we hit those targets. And then if we go long, being careful up here as we could see resistance into those upper levels. Just take a quick screenshot there. If not, you can just see this chart also in our broad market analysis here in the Discord room. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the bigger picture. And here, this may look a little bit different. I'm using TradingView. I'm using a quarterly candle, and I have some notes here, and it's very straightforward. The quarterly price remains in the bullish channel and can still reach the upper 23.6, which is approximately $424.62. Support would be the 38.2 or $390.25. It's a $34 range in this channel of bullishness. Basically, this means I'm pretty patient in here as we approach the upper level. I'm getting more interested on the put side. When I say the upper level, I'm referring to the 23.6, but please understand that for the quarterly candle, as long as it's holding above that 38.2, that this level is support until proven otherwise. So the overall sentiment that I have from a quarterly perspective is that SPY remains bullish, and this is the quarterly supply that we could be running into. But just know, some of the smaller time frames we could pull back and digest a little bit, and that's why we are going to show you the neutral strategy, right? It has smaller targets using smaller time frames and so forth. Let's go ahead and move on to the Q strategy. This is QQQ, same thing. Just take a quick snapshot. We have an inside and down and inside and up formations. And the reason why I'm showing you these, just in case we get a surprise and we get more of a dramatic move, we want to know where those levels are, where we can find demand. Okay, so you can see them to the downside. And then to the upside, if for some reason we continue to push up and over my targets, then we'd be looking for 322 and then possibly, towards 327. All right. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. You guys know how to trade the neutral strategy. If you don't, I have a quick video on YouTube that teaches you how to trade this, but really straightforward. Let's go ahead and move on to the cues, the bigger picture. Again, using TradingView here. This is a quarterly, and I have a few notes here as well. Price hit the next target in the lower time frame supply zone, and you can see it hit here really well. So right around that 308.82 or 309.82 level, it did pull back from there. And as long as it can hold 299.36 on the quarterly, it remains bullish. And what we're doing here is that we're just slowly chewing away, trying to chew away supply. We already know that bears are kind of in control in this box, so you want to be careful, but just know that, again, as long as the bottom portion of this supply zone holds, we can continue to push up inside of this zone. And the bigger zone, again, is the quarterly, just like the SPY up here at 362. Let's see if I have any other notes. Let's see, as long as price holds the 299.36, stay bullish for longer term, okay? Again, we can have a small pullback. I'm not saying we can't. That's why we use the neutral strategy. Let's go ahead and go into the dollar. Take a look here. This is also using TradingView. And some notes here. A shocker that the dollar popped in demand. I've been talking about this for months. Matter of fact, we timed it perfectly about the drop. We waited for it to drop into the zone. I've been saying over the last couple weeks, yellow flag. We could see a little pullback in the market when the dollar, finds bids down here at support. It hit the support level. We have not changed these levels. Perfect levels, working perfect. But just know, just because it's popping doesn't mean a whole lot. For me, it doesn't mean a whole lot unless the dollar starts to bid over the 105.79. The first target to the upside and resistance would be around 103.91. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Remember, typically when the dollar is bullish, the markets are pulling back a little bit. Okay. Let's go into the Treasury. So TNX, shocker here as well. I've been saying wait for the 9 EMA on the monthly, and that's what we're using, by the way, on the dollar and the Treasury, that we're waiting for the monthly to come back into the 9 EMA. We found that it did get some support there, but I'm not overly concerned, folks, unless the Treasury starts to bid above 3.8. I would start getting more concerned there. Okay, but now I feel we are range bound between 3.89 and 3.2 for right now. Okay, so those are my major levels. So 3.2, 3.9. As long as we're staying in there, I think the market kind of does what it needs to do and just kind of digest for right now. The skew is equals 123, and it's moved up a tad. And my notes here for this week, you can see that this is stalled at the cloud. So if we were to treat this just like any other stock, and we know that it's not a stock, right? And if you don't know what it is, please go to Google and Google it. But the skew is your hedge funds, and basically I have these levels on here, and we started to look to get long down here at this red level. You can go back to the past posts that I have in here, but that level's worked very, very well in the past. And so risk was on in the market. And if this were a stock, I would be definitely looking for this to break out potentially to the next level, which would be around 127 to 130. Now, what that means is that the market would continue to push up and get just a tad bit more greedy. Okay, so that leads me to the fear and greed. We're in the extreme greed. I've been saying this for several weeks that we would probably most likely make it here. We did. And my notes here today, and again, hopefully they're not too corny, but basically what I'm saying here is that timing is a variable. In these conditions, this is telling me that we still have 24 points on the fear and greed that we could push to really push this to the limits, the extreme greed. So don't think for a minute that the market cannot continue to push up. All right, so that's really important to understand that just because we hit extreme greed doesn't mean that the market has to pull back. What it's telling me, though, is that people are starting to get a little bit complacent, and so the majority of your participants are on the long side. And when the majority of the participants are on the long side and your SPY and your Qs are pushing up into the supply zones that I'm showing you, and the dollar could continue to push up a little bit and the TNX could continue to push up a little bit, that it is definitely a yellow to red flag for this week. Last week was a yellow flag. This week, I'm saying because we are pretty much getting right to those levels where I start to look for a transition in a cycle, um, is right where it needs to be. That timing is a variable. I don't want to be perfect, and I don't expect you to be perfect. If we're wrong with our timing, that's okay. But for me personally, for my portfolio, I'm just starting to back off of the longs until I can see that the market actually can take out last week's highs and sustain them. So this may be a very patient week going into, into more earnings. Maybe just more patience, kind of filling it out. And that's okay, guys. Patience, we don't have to overtrade. But just please note that for me, I'm just waiting to see if we can get over some key levels. If we can't, then I do think that the overall sentiment could just be choppy and sideways. Okay. Now, the SPY, the Qs, and I didn't bring up the DIA and the IWM are close to supply. Now, the Dow Jones, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, Melissa and I met this morning and we talked about the market. And one of my biggest focuses has to be the Dow Jones. So let's come over here and take a look at DIA. The diamonds is what we call it. All right. And let's just kind of open this up and look at a higher time frame. I mean, when I look at this thing, it looks like it's ready to take off. It's come back on the weekly. It's tested the cloud. Um, it's holding. It looks very bullish. We had a buy signal back here a couple weeks ago. The overall area where the Dow could hit was 350, 360, 370. And, when I look at the highs, like the highs are around 370 and we're trading at almost 340. We're only $30 off of the high, which is, I mean, absolutely insane if you ask me. But really what gets me excited is more about the monthly chart. And you can see we're just kind of flagging above this support. We're flagging above the cloud. We're flagging above the edge. We went from white to green, okay, white to green. So the momentum's changing. And I have two yellow bars on the histogram down here on the TTM Pro. So I just really like this. And even if for some reason we open up this week and we don't take out last week's highs, then I'm just ready and prepared to be patient and try to buy down here towards these edges. And we'll talk about that from a day-to-day perspective, okay? Now, my entire focus is being aware of the conditions and to simply act as a coach or a lifeguard for you guys. And right now, I think it's safe to say that we see signs of a storm brewing because of all the conditions that I've shown you. Okay. Now, I say a storm, right? We have severe storms and we have storms that just kind of like drop some rain and things kind of do what they're supposed to do. All right. What I'm seeing right now is not like this big event that has to happen. We still have earnings. I think we're still going to be, choppy, maybe a little bit of pullback, but overall the market actually looks still really bullish. And as I showed you on the fear and greed, and even looking at the supply zones, we still have room to move to the upside. Okay. Now, right now, I think it's safe to say again that it's brewing. So timing is the variable. Keep an open mind, and that means I trade normal, but I'm slowly adding put debit spreads here and there for a little bit of protection, folks. Note, these are smaller with nice returns in the event we do get a deeper pullback. And if I'm wrong, then I'll simply take a little scratch on the PL. That's how I want to trade when I start to see all of these things line up. Overall sentiment, guys, long term, I'm still bullish. Short term, I would personally love to see a little bit of consolidation, maybe a little shallow pullback. Wait for some big earnings this week. Love to see Disney, but there's plenty of names that I'm going to be looking at. We are going to be concentrating on, I am on the IWM and the Dow Jones, maybe some energy. And so that's where my focus is going into this week. The SPYs And the Qs, I feel like, they can consolidate a little bit here, but I'm definitely interested in the Dow Jones. So we'll be looking at some of our top holdings there, look for some trade plans, and do business as usual. All right, so we're doing really well this year, up in both accounts. Melissa and me. Melissa's doing really well. If you go over to the journal, she's up 103% this year, and is doing amazing there. And again, before we end the session, please go to the journal. Please start journaling your trades. Let us help you. Thank you for being here in the community. We can't wait to trade with you. Um, yeah, so we'll see you tomorrow, 30 minutes before the open. Make sure you check the focus trades, look for the trade plans that will be coming out to you. Make sure that you join the audio room before we get started, 30 minutes before, and make sure you're prepared. All right. And again, good luck. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.